I think it's going very well. It was an operation, like when a patient gets operated on, and it's a big thing. I said this would exactly be the way it is. We have $6 or $7 trillion coming into our country, and we've never seen anything like it. The markets are going to boom, the stock is going to boom, the country is going to boom, and the rest of the world wants to see, is there any way they can make a deal? They've taken advantage of us for many, many years. For many years, we've been at the wrong side of the ball, and I'll tell you what, I think it's going to be unbelievable. The thing that people have to talk about, we're up almost to $7 trillion of investment coming into our country, and you'll see how it's going to turn out.
All right, guys, so we got to follow up on the panic that is currently happening in the mainstream liberal media and in the Democrat Party, and also with the Republican Party as well, too, over President Trump's tariffs.
The president has justified the imposition of these tariffs on, in my view, a made-up emergency.
Canadians got a right to be pissed. We got a responsibility to step up as bipartisan members of the Senate and say no.
Senate Democrats drafting a resolution to end the national emergency Donald Trump declared in order to impose 25% tariffs on Canada related to border security and fentanyl. But they need help from the Republican majority to get it passed.
We're asking for 4 Republican senators to actually go on record what they've all said privately. They're aghast at the tariffs.
Republican Senators Rand Paul, Susan Collins, and Tom Tillis are expected to support the measure, prompting Trump to step in, lashing out on social media, writing, "Don't let the Democrats have a victory. It would be devastating for the Republican Party."
Okay, and the reason why there's panic is, one, because all of these people are Trump deranged, right? But also, two, and most importantly, these people don't have a vision, and they have no clue what the president is trying to do because they're not listening to the administration. Okay, if you actually listen to the administration and what they're saying, they're telling you exactly what they're trying to do. Okay, President Trump is trying to deliver the biggest blue collar victory for workers, particularly men, right? Blue collar men, skilled blue collar men. And I want to make that very, very, very clear. High skill, blue collar tradesmen are going to benefit massively from what President Trump is trying to do. And I'm going to explain to you guys why. I explained it in my last video yesterday, but I'm actually going to go in more detail in regards to exactly how this works, right? Because I feel like I didn't do a good job of doing it yesterday. So I'm actually going to go deeper today. But let's not forget, right? This is one of those situations where Democrats and the mainstream liberal media, they're boohoo whining and crying about something that Democrats agreed on back when the Democrats were a sane party, or somewhat sane. Take a look.
Right now, we have a $34 billion trade deficit with China, the 1995 figure. It will be over $40 billion for 1996. Since the Tiananmen Square massacre, this figure has increased 1,000%, from $3.5 billion then to about $34 billion now. In terms of tariffs, I think it's interesting to note that the average U.S. MFN tariff on Chinese goods coming into the United States is 2%, whereas the average Chinese MFN tariff on U.S. goods going into China is 35%. Is that reciprocal? On exports, China only allows certain industries into China, of U.S. Industries into China, and therefore only 2% of U.S. exports are allowed into China. On the other hand, the U.S. allows China to flood our markets with a third of their exports, and that'll probably go over 40%. And it's limitless because we have not placed any restriction. In terms of jobs, this is the biggest and cruelest hoax of all. Not only do we not have market access, not only do they have prohibitive tariffs, not only are our exports not let in very specifically, but China benefits with at least 10 million jobs from U.S.-China trade. The president, in his statement requesting this special waiver, said that China trade supports 170,000 jobs in the United States, 170,000 jobs, whereas our imports from China support 10 million jobs at least. Fact is that U.S.-China trade is a job loser. And one of the reasons that it is because well, first let me just make another point, and that is that our colleagues on the other side of this issue will say the trade with China, exports to China have increased 3 times in the last 10 years. They have. But they fail to mention that imports from China have increased 11 times, thereby leading to this huge trade deficit.
Yeah, so once again, we have clips of Democrats agreeing with something when they were a sane party that they disagree with today because of Trump derangement, right? That is essentially what is happening here, okay? Because back in the day when the Democrats actually were at their peak in terms of popularity, right, in the 90s, they actually balanced the budget, right? Like, they cared about illegal immigration. Like, the Democrat Party apparently, again, has lost themselves. And the Trump administration basically has stolen their playbook, right? So I don't know. But what I do know is that a lot of people are missing the overall picture, okay? The long-term game plan here from the Trump administration when it comes to these tariffs and what President Trump is trying to do to make this country a manufacturing hub again, which a lot of people don't believe is possible because, I don't know, maybe these people are rooting against America at this point. That's what a lot of this anti-tariff stuff is coming from. And I'm not even like a tariff guy, right? But I know what President Trump is doing, right? So even though I'm not a tariff guy, I would much rather have everybody lower their trade barriers, right? So it's like free trade, like actual free trade across the board. And this could be the best way to ultimately get to that goal, right? Plus a bunch of other things I think is happening as well too. And once you understand the vision, right, you can't unsee it. This is why I am confident, and I wouldn't say this if I really didn't feel this way. I'm confident that in the long term, this is going to work out very well for workers, okay? Especially blue collar, high skilled tradesmen, right? Men, okay? President Trump basically has backstabbed Wall Street and KO'd China in order to give a win to working class men. That is what Howard Lutnick, the Commerce Secretary for the Trump administration, is going to explain to the CNN propagandist. So without further ado, let's get into it.
Let's talk about what are the key people involved with these new trade policies, and that would be President Trump's Commerce Secretary, Howard Lutnick. Mr. Secretary, nice to have you on again. Are these economic experts I just cited wrong in your view about a recession?
I think they're not counting the factories that are going to be built. President Trump yesterday announced $5 trillion in domestic commitments to build factories in America, right? Remember, domestic production, GDP. People forget if you buy a Toyota that's made in Japan, that's not domestic production. Domestic production is factories built here. So you've got $5 trillion committed to be building factories in America, and that's going to drive growth. If you divide that by our $30 trillion economy, that's a whole lot of growth, and you're going to get that starting in the fourth quarter, and that's going to drive this U.S. economy because it's American workers who are going to build those factories.
So let's dive a little bit deeper into that because, you know, in the past when Trump put in tariffs, there was Foxconn, right? He announced that investment. That didn't come to fruition. And what you are laying out, and certainly it would be good if there's more investment, but what you're laying out is this sort of manufacturing renaissance. But as you well know, for businesses, it's not so simple, right? They have to find the workers. Labor is more expensive here. There's concern that trade policies could change in the next few years. And then why invest all this money now if it's just going to change down the road? What do you say to those companies?
Finally changing U.S. policy to protect American workers is what Donald Trump is all about. So what you're going to see is factories going to be built here. Why should U.S. policy basically suggest that you can find the cheapest labor in the world with the worst labor conditions in the whole wide world, the worst pollution, right? No environmental rules at all. Let's go build there because it's really cheap and we'll sell it to the great American economy. How about we build it here? We use robotics here. It's cheaper than cheap labor overseas. You're going to see something completely different. You're going to see the greatest economy in the world. The Renaissance will be the greatest factories in the world. High tech people. What are the jobs Americans are going to have? We are going to have mechanics who fix robotics. We're going to have engineers and electricians who work on these great high-tech factories. These are high-tech jobs. All you need is a high school education and training, and they're going to have great jobs, great paying, and this is who Donald Trump is going to build for.
Yeah. So this is the exact point that I was trying to make yesterday as I explained to you guys what I thought the Trump plan was going to be, right? Because they clearly spell it out, even though I actually haven't heard the Trump administration talk specifically about AI and robotics, which is what I went over yesterday. I haven't heard them actually be this specific, which is funny because I feel like I have my finger on the pulse of the Trump economic plan and what they're doing. And that's why, like, it's just so funny to me that nobody else realizes what's happening here. AI is going to make globalism obsolete, okay? And free trade, which basically underpins the economics of globalism, is going to change, right? In regards to how comparative advantage works, right? It's not going to be about who has the lowest cost labor anymore, okay? It's going to be about cost and power. What does that mean? What that means is that with AI, low-skilled workers are basically going to be obsolete. So, you know, all those little trinkets that we buy on Amazon, the widgets that we buy on Amazon from China, okay? The only reason they're made in China is because China pays slave wages. However, with AI and robotics, we can now build machines that will do the work of those Chinese workers for less money than them, right? So at that point, it doesn't matter, right? The low skill work, effectively, the labor costs go to zero, okay? Which means that we can make all those things they make in China and other parts of the world as well too. We can make that here in the United States cheaply because of AI and robotics. So that is why so many people are just like blind to what's going on, because they're not forward thinking, right? They're not thinking about how AI changes everything, right? Anybody that's talking about this subject of tariffs without talking about AI, honest to God truth, you shouldn't listen to them. They don't know what they're talking about. What they say is irrelevant. You cannot talk about this without talking about AI, because AI changes the game, okay? Now, again, why is this good for blue collar, high skill tradesmen? Well, the reason why is because you need those people to build the factories, to maintain the factories, to run the factories, to build the infrastructure for the factories. You need men, high skilled men that are going to be running these AI factories, right? And this has the potential to create millions of jobs, okay? Why do I say that? Well, look at a Tesla Gigafactory, which is an AI factory, okay? Basically, again, it is a factory run by AI. It employs 11,000 people in Nevada. The Texas factory is going to employ 20,000 people, okay? So AI factories are not going to get rid of high-skilled blue-collar work. In fact, it's going to create more high-skilled blue-collar work, because the more we build here in America, the more that we produce at an extremely low cost, okay, using AI and robotics, the more high-skilled blue-collar tradesmen you're going to need to maintain that production, okay? This is why President Trump just delivered. I mean, to be honest with you, he's delivering the biggest win, W, to working class blue collar men that we've seen in a long time in this country. And this is why they're upset. This is why they're upset, because this is a massive W for working men. This is why they are upset. Okay, that, and they don't really understand what's happening, right? They're not factoring in, again, the effect of AI and robotics. The fact is that we don't need cheap foreign labor anymore. We don't need illegal immigrants, right? We don't need them to pick our cotton. We have machines that can do that. And then guess what? The guys that maintain those machines that are actually running the operation, they will get paid very nicely, right? They will have high paying jobs, okay? And there's going to be a mass need for that type of labor. And that doesn't mean that everything is going to be more expensive, or that the American product, you're not going to be able to afford it. No. Again, the most American-made car, which is a Tesla, Elon is making them here in the United States of America. Again, cheaply. And they're pretty affordable for an electric vehicle. And they're great quality for what you're buying, right? And he does that, again, in America, cheaply. And he's still employing thousands and thousands, tens of thousands of blue-collar, high-skilled workers. It's possible. With AI, it is possible, because AI basically makes slave labor obsolete, okay? That's what it does. And the people who are going to benefit the most from more AI factories, more production in the United States of America are going to be high-skill, blue-collar tradesmen, okay? Because they have to build it, they have to maintain it, they have to run it. Nobody's going to win more from the Trump agenda than working men. That's what's happening. That's what's happening, okay? Now, there's a lot of people, because of AI, again, the illegals, the OnlyFans models, yeah, you know, they may have some issues, right? They may have some issues, but a man is not replaceable, right? At least AI is not going to get to that point, and at least not anytime soon, right? Okay, I mean, we talk about maybe 100 years from now where AI might literally be able to do everything, right? But that's not happening for a long time, okay? But in the immediate future, there are a lot of things that AI cannot do that we need high-skilled blue-collar men for, okay? And that is what the Trump administration is talking about. AI allows us to produce basically damn near everything that we could ever need here in America, as long as we have the materials to do so, right? I mean, this is why we need Greenland, right? This is why we need Canada, because, they have vast materials that they're not taking advantage of, that we can take advantage of, and we need those things, right? So when you think about all the things that President Trump is trying to do, it's not random. Like, when you actually understand, like, why, like, they're doing what they're doing, they're trying to win everything, right? They're just trying to win the game, right? That's what they're trying to, they're going for, no, we're going to win, because whoever wins at AI is going to dominate the world. And that's the bottom line.
I understand this is your selling point, but companies right now, I mean, they're just not buying it. They don't want to risk putting all this money into doing what you said, especially when you're looking at a few.
Why is this woman editorializing? Right? Again, this is the type of propaganda on CNN. Well, the companies don't want to do this. Well, who said the companies don't want to do this? Right? Who are you to say that the companies don't want to invest here in America? Do you guys understand the propaganda from the media? Right? And this is why I tell you guys, these arguments from the media, these are not well thought out arguments. This is just them regurgitating talking points without actually understanding what the hell they're talking about, because ultimately the agenda is to be anti-American, right? That's what this is. This is anti-American garbage, right? That's what it is. They're literally rooting against America. Shouldn't the media be actually encouraging people to invest here in America? Shouldn't they be talking about how good it is that the president is encouraging businesses to stay here in America? How do you take a negative approach to incentivizing businesses to create jobs for the American people? Like, again, the propaganda is nuts. It really is.
Future of AI and automation doing a lot of the things you just lay out. How does this concept of bringing back this manufacturing renaissance in the U.S., which might be a noble endeavor for sure, square with the future of AI and really looking at that?
No, that's the whole point. So you imagine what you're talking about is all these companies who have their manufacturing in the cheapest labor market in the world and the least environmental rules in the world, and they're being celebrated. And the time is to have those great companies who are great designers of products for America, bring it back to America. Use robotics, use factories in America, and they're all committed. That's what the $5 trillion is. Apple committing. Remember, Apple last time, they got an exemption and they didn't build. Right? This time, there are no exemptions. They're going to build in America. These high-tech factories are going to come to America. Remember, with NAFTA, we lost 90,000 factories. It's time for those factories to come home. It's time for the American workers to get employed. And it's time for Donald Trump to take care of them. Finally, someone is going to take care of the American workers, and his name is Donald Trump.
Right. And certainly, we're going to be tracking this, and I'm sure the administration will, to make sure that they actually follow through on what they're saying they're going to do. But in the interim, this takes long. Unraveling globalization takes a long time. This isn't just an overnight fix. And in the interim, prices will go up. You even hear from the president himself, there will be short-term pain. We're going to see in the next few days likely prices going up at the grocery store. What do you say to those Americans who put Donald Trump in office to lower prices, not raise them?
I want to say this real quick, right? It's just so hilarious to me how CNN so confidently declares prices will go up, right? When Democrats were spending trillions of dollars, when the Fed was printing money like crazy during the pandemic, these people told us that inflation was transitory. They told us that inflation didn't exist, right? At some point, they told us the economy is great. it's just the vibe session, you know? People just feel bad, but it's not actually really bad, right? That's what they were saying. Biden's economy went into a recession. It's not a recession. But they know for certain, oh, inflation is going to happen, right? It's definitely going to happen. And I'm not saying that it's not possible, but any of these people claiming that inflation is going to happen with certainty, I don't think they actually can really back it up, right? They can't tell you why. I can tell you why I don't think that's going to happen with certainty, right? The reason why I tell you that is because you can't have your cake and eat it too, in the sense that Wall Street right now, they're panicking. A lot of people are selling. Trillions of dollars have evaporated from the market. Now, if inflation was actually happening, okay, why would Wall Street be selling? Like I told you guys, nobody loves inflation more than Wall Street. Well, why does Wall Street love inflation? They love inflation because inflation increases the prices of assets, right? Wall Street owns assets, okay? Ultimately, at the end of the day, if the price of assets go up, they make more money, okay? They make more money ultimately at the end of the day. That's what happens, right? So if inflation is going to increase as a result of tariffs, for sure, right? Which me, I'm telling you, I don't know. But CNN says it's going to happen for sure. Why is Wall Street upset about this? If this is an opportunity to price gouge, to just arbitrarily raise prices, why would corporate America be upset about that? If that is what happens, if the tariff just gets passed on to the consumer, Wall Street doesn't take a hit, nobody takes a hit, there's nothing negative that happens to corporate America as a result. If they can just do that, what are people panicking about? What's the problem? Unless they know that one, that process in which I just described is not actually really how it works every single time. It just depends on the specific situation, the specific market, the specific industry, right? It's impossible to know what's going to happen across the board, right? But there are going to be very specific things that happen due to the tariffs just based off what market you're in. So it's a very complicated conversation. But more so than anything, even if prices increase in the short term, okay, that is going to reduce consumer spending, okay? And when consumer spending decreases, then what happens? Corporate America makes less money, right? That's what happens. That is what Wall Street is worried about, okay? They're not worried about inflation. They're worried about a decline in consumer spending, right? People spending less money. And that, my friends, is not inflationary, right? That is not inflationary, okay? So I think what is likely to happen as a result of these tariffs is that, yes, in the short term, there may be a price increase, but that's not real inflation, okay? What's going to determine what actually happens with prices is going to be consumer spending. If consumer spending declines as a result of price increases, because at some point, people are just not going to buy stuff. They're going to say, you know what? The price is too high. I'm not buying it, right? Likely what you're probably going to see, you may see some deflation. Who knows, okay? But in the meantime, as consumer spending declines, okay, and inflation falls, hopefully it falls, right? The Fed is going to have to lower interest rates, right, in order to bring down the cost of capital. Okay, so the cost of capital coming down, right, which is what the Trump administration is trying to do. They're trying to lower the 10-year yield, right? And the reason why they're trying to lower that is because that basically represents what consumers have to pay in regards to the actual cost of capital, right? So the 10-year yield is important, and the Trump administration has basically been driving it down because that's going to drive down rates. Is going to make it, again, easier for consumers and businesses to borrow money, and that is going to stimulate economic production. In fact, that will be the main driver of economic production alongside the supply side stimulus, in which President Trump is going to cut taxes for workers. Okay, so if you're a tip worker or if you're working overtime, okay, these factory workers, again, about to get paid big bucks, right? Because your overtime, you're not going to be paying taxes. Okay, so the more you work, the more money you can get paid, right? And you get to keep your money. Again, this is what I'm trying to tell you. This is a big W. If this works out, it's going to be the biggest financial W for working class men that we've ever seen. If it all works out. I don't know if it will, but if it does, it's going to be a big W. Energy deregulation. Why? Because of these big factories. AI requires a large amount of energy, a huge amount of energy, right? And that is a bottleneck right now for us. So that's why the president is deregulating. He's calling for OPEC to lower oil prices because we need to use energy. We need lower energy prices. We need as much oil as possible to build as much as possible, as fast as possible. Okay. So all of this makes sense in the grand scheme of things. If you actually listen to the Trump administration, they're telling you what the plan is, but nobody's listening. But if you watch the 10-year yield, okay, which has been going down since Trump got in office, it is clear what they're trying to do. They're trying to force the feds to lower the cost of capital. That's what they're trying to do. Okay. And that takes a little bit of pain to do. Okay. But that's the end goal. That's what he actually really wants to do. Alongside the supply side stimulus, we're going to see a production boom. If it works out, right? If it works out, it's a big bet. It's a ballsy bet. But if it works out, it's going to be the greatest era of production that we've seen in a long time. Okay. And that's what's going to happen. Hopefully.
So energy prices down. Interest rates down, right, your mortgage costs down, right? These things are energy. The price at the gas pump lower, oil down 6-7%. Why aren't you talking about the fact that oil and the gas pump is going to come smashing down? No tax on tips, no tax on overtime,
right,
no tax on Social
Security. That's not even in effect yet.
These
no tax
are
on
all
tips. But I just want to drill down on price.
Yeah, it's not in effect yet. So why are you coming to conclusions about what's going to happen if you know this is coming? See, again, this is why this is so dishonest. You can't analyze these policies individually. You have to analyze them in the context of other policies that are being carried out by the Trump administration, right? And again, that's what people are missing. That's what they're missing. That's what they don't understand.
All coming now.
Because as you well know, Secretary, a lot of Americans put Donald Trump in office because they were unhappy with prices at the grocery store, right? They didn't feel like Biden did enough. They put Trump in office to fix that. In a few days, we're about to see prices go up at the grocery store. What do you say to those Americans?
I don't think that's going to happen.
You don't
the reason
think,
it's going to happen,
it won't happen?
Watch, no one can guarantee anything, but that's fair.
Again, when Democrats are printing all this money, inflating the economy, none of these people question Build Back Better. None of these people ask, hey, will spending trillions of dollars cause inflation, right? None of these people were having that conversation, okay? None of them were. None of them questioned Democrats in any of their legislation. But when it comes to what President Trump is doing in his policies, oh, now all of a sudden they want to become economists. Inflation is going to happen for sure. Prices are going to go up. You know what's the most inflationary part about the tariffs right now? Because they haven't really even been implemented, right? The most inflationary part about the tariffs is the media continuing to claim that inflation is going to happen no matter what, right? Because basically what they're trying to do is that they're trying to program people to be okay with inflation, right? To be okay paying a higher price to it because you're expecting prices to be higher, right? So again, that's kind of how inflation works in the sense that one factor when it comes to inflation is people expecting inflation to go up. People expect inflation, then they're more willing to pay higher prices because they're like, oh, well, prices are supposed to go up. So therefore, I'm going to pay more, right? That's what the media is trying to do. They're trying to program people into forcing prices to go up by expecting prices to go up. This is what I'm trying to tell you. This is Soviet propaganda. That's what this is, okay? That's the level of propaganda that we're witnessing here, right? From the mainstream level media when it comes to these tariffs, okay? I'm so serious. Once you see it, you can't unsee it.
Very nice. Thank you. I wish I could guarantee whatever you'd like. But the fact is, wait, let's take one moment. Wait. You asked me a question. Let's go through it, okay? Our farmers are blocked from selling almost anywhere. We can't, 1.4 billion people in India, and we can't sell them corn. Europe won't let us sell beef. Australia won't let us sell beef. Why?
Hormonal chemicals.
Yeah, no, that's not why. It's because they want to just protect. I know they want to say, oh, what, the seeds are different, right? Other people in the world are using seeds that insects. Come on, this is nonsense. This is all nonsense. What happens is they block our markets. When we open those markets, our volumes grow. Our farmers will thrive, and the price of groceries will come down. Let Donald Trump run the global economy. He knows what he's doing. He's been talking about it for 35 years. You got to trust Donald Trump in the White House. That's why they put him there. Let him fix it.
I understand.
It's broken. Let him fix it. Our $36 trillion deficit, right, is going to ruin our children's lives and our grandchildren's lives. Let Donald Trump fix the American economy.
But just to follow up with you, when the first time he did...
Let him fix it, because that's what this comes down to at the end of the day, right? I mean, Biden ruined the economy. Trump is fixing it. Again, they never had this much smoke for anything Democrats did. That's the part about this that blows my mind, right? Nobody questioned the Democrats and their spending and their Green New Scam, right? The Lifestyle Reduction Act, right? I'm just saying the Standard of Living Reduction Act, okay? Nobody questioned that legislation. They didn't even cover it because they didn't want people to know about it, to be honest with you. So when it came to anything that Biden was doing, they never questioned. Biden spent $40 billion to bring broadband to rural America and didn't connect nobody to the government internet. Didn't connect anybody. Has CNN asked questions about that? No, right? But everything that Trump puts out, every economic policy, they got questions about. It blows my mind. It really does. But, again, I'm trying to tell you guys, this is a win for Main Street. And because it is a win for Main Street, these people are upset. They're losing their minds. The corporate interests are. And here's the thing. Wall Street doesn't even lose in the long term, right? This is going to be better for Wall Street in the long term. But they have a short-term mindset. They have a very short-term mindset, okay? And because their mindset is short-term, they can't see the forest through the trees, right? But I'm here to show you guys, or to tell you that I see the forest through the trees. I see what the Trump administration is trying to do. It's not going to be perfect. It's not going to be it's not going to be a smooth ride. Let's just say that. But in the long run, I think it's going to be worth it. I think we're going to see a manufacturing boom, a productivity boom that we've never seen before. And again, this is why I think that it's important to give it a chance. Give it a chance. But, the media doesn't want to do that, right? They don't want to do that. So let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.